Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm your host, Bill Hirschman. I'm the editor-in-chief critic of FloridaTheaterOnStage.com, and I'm here once again with our gang of usual people, starting with Iris Acker, veteran actress and the producer of our show, and Karen Stevens, Carbonell-winning actress and multi-talented Michael McKeever. But our special guest today is, and we're very honored to have him, is David Arisco, the artistic director of the Actors Playhouse at Miracle Theater. You don't normally get that spelled all the way through.
Located in beautiful downtown Coral Gables. Yes.
And our topic today is about the South Florida audience. In other words, we're going to talk about you. And we may not know who you are, but Dave really knows who you are. It's his business to know. So I want you to talk a little bit about who exactly the South Florida theater audience is in 2014 or 15.
Well, we've been around for 27 years now, so it's changed. You know, a lot of the audience comes from the folks that have relocated to South Florida from the Northeast or the Midwest, and normally on this coast it's the Northeast, and normally on the other coast it's the Midwest. But that's your core, people who've grown up going to the theater, who have already invested in theater during their lives, and then you work day and night at trying to develop new audiences and trying to get the people that are moving here and or younger people that haven't been to the theater before and or different ethnic groups that haven't been to the theater before, and constantly work on that through your programming and through your outreach programs to try to grab that new audience and find some new exciting theater for them as well.
Well, that sounds really easy. I'm assuming it's a really easy thing to do.
Well, yes, exactly. It works like a charm every time.
So Dave, what are some of the programs? How do you do that? How do you start developing a new audience? How do you find them and how do you attract them?
We've always done what I'd like to consider an eclectic season, meaning out of the 6 shows during the season, we pick a little bit something different for every show. Sometimes that is accused of confusing an audience if you're not doing one genre, but I think it's great that you're giving an opportunity for different folks to come to different shows. The other thing that we've done for years is we've had a professional children's theater programming. It's our non-equity wing as opposed to our equity wing, which is our main stage programming. And when we bring people in to see these shows, these young kids come to see theater, so they're getting their first experience in theater at a very young age. So you are now beginning to turn them into theater goers. Then they come as high schoolers and middle schoolers to see our main stage productions, and then we hope when they go out into the world, whether it be here in South Florida or elsewhere, that they have learned how to support theater.
That's smart. You're growing a whole new generation of theater goers.
So, yeah.
Do you do demographic studies of who your audience is?
We haven't done a recent one, but it definitely has shifted. I tell a story that goes a little bit like this about how last year we did a huge production of In the Heights, which we were fortunate enough to win the Carbonell for.
Yes,
best person in the musical. Yay. And we were really excited about that. We're in Miami, and we're in Coral Gables, which I think is closing in on 75 to 80% Hispanic at this point. Okay, and so we were very excited about the prospects of that show. And interestingly enough, it did very well, but a lot of our traditional audience base that would come to see a Les Mis or would come to see a Miss Saigon did not come to see In the Heights. They weren't necessarily that thrilled with the rap. They weren't necessarily that thrilled with the newness, with the different culture that it was dealing with. And then, so a year later, we do Spamalot. And all the old audience that was supporting us for years comes back, but none of the new people who came to see In the Heights necessarily come. So we still have to work on them. We still have to work on training that audience to know that even though they come to see the one thing that they think is right for them.
So the Latins did come to see In the Heights.
Absolutely, and they've come to see Havana Bourgeois, which is another show that we've done, and a Nilo show that we did called The Color of Desire. And we have turned some of that audience into a returning audience, whether that be subscription base or group sales or whatever.
You just said something interesting, the subscription base. 10 years ago for sure, and even as much as 6 or 7 years ago, a lot of theaters depended heavily on subscriptions. People who would say, whatever it is they're going to do, I know I'm going to get a certain level of quality of show.
Absolutely.
And they didn't care so much as what the titles were, as long as they fell within a certain range.
Right.
But can you talk a little bit about how ticket buying
Has changed.
trends
Yeah.
have changed now among your current audience?
Well, it's definitely changed for us. I don't know how much it's changed throughout South Florida because I think it's a little different in the northern regions, in the Palm Beach and the,
No, we're interested
Jupiter
in
area.
Actors Playhouse.
But as far as Miami and as far as Actors Playhouse, our subscription base is up this past year, which is great. But the trend for the last 5-6 years has been going down.
Do you think that's due to the economy?
I think the first inkling of it happening was after the Les Mis season, we noticed a change, which was 2009-10. You know, when the economy started shifting, we started to know it didn't hit us immediately. We were excited. We were like, okay, we're happening. The economy's going down and everybody's coming. And then all of a sudden we started noticing that we were having some dwindling numbers with groups. We were having some dwindling numbers with our subscribers on the return for the following year. And then, of course, we discovered through reading the trades and doing different research that subscriptions were down around the country. People are busy. People don't want to plan their entire year out, so then everybody comes up with the flexible pass, which we have.
Yes.
We have a flexible
works.
anytime. It helps a lot. Yeah,
good,
it really
good.
does.
Or was
And
there an uptick in people going, I want to see
We
the other
found-
part of the paradigm?
We found a big growth in the amount of subscribers that we had were now buying the flexible anytime ticket more than
Explaining
they
that,
were.
please, the flexible.
Well, that
Yeah.
just means that for basically it's a little higher price, meaning you're buying a Saturday night ticket. But you can come anytime you want. You can come Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday matinee,
Four out of
in
six?
any one of the 4 weeks that we're running the
4
shows.
out of 6.
Yeah. And so we found that people, and with their busy schedules, appreciate that.
Okay.
And then what we need to be convincing them of is that you are supporting live professional theater in your community. Do this instead of not be a subscriber. You know, if you were a subscriber, stay a subscriber, but go to the flexible anytime and try that out and see if that works for you. And for the most part, that's been successful.
Do you also offer, out of 5 or 6 shows
Yeah.
in your season, buy 2 or 3 at the same time?
We haven't done that at the beginning of the season because we try as much as we can to see if we can get the all 6 subscription or the all 6 flex
Yep.
pass happening first. Once we've opened the first show and we get into the second show and the third show, we definitely offer, you know, the smaller packages because it's time. Now the shows are coming and we got to make sure
Well,
we
you do so
get
much
some seats sold.
enticing. You got the restaurants. You have, you know, if you get for every show, you get so much off at the restaurant, and vice versa.
We have a great subscription package that includes a
And all-
little card that offers like 15%, a free dessert, a free appetizer, a
things.
glass
I
of
think they
wine,
have-
all kinds of things and we have restaurant partnerships, which is fabulous, where we also put together dinner and theater packages
Right,
for
that
people who
works.
want to come to the theater. And so we're always looking at ways to make people want to come to downtown Coral Gables because it is an exciting place to come to. You know, you can walk the mile. The mile has become very friendly and it's become very pedestrian. As a matter of fact, there's a whole new plan in the next couple of years to even further that. The Downtown Business Improvement District is changing the mile to become even more pedestrian friendly.
Let's talk about last season a little bit. You mentioned In the Heights. Trying to figure out, let's talk about last season, meaning how you favored at the box office and what worked and what didn't work. As an example, and we
one
can
of the-
bring up some photos of these shows.
Sure. One of the surprises, one of the nice surprises of the season was a little show called Making God Laugh, which was something that I found through regional theaters around the country. It never played New York. It never was nominated for anything.
Yeah.
It was just a show that had been playing some regional theaters and doing well. So I said, let's try it. It deals with a family. It deals with a family through 4 decades, and it deals with things that people can relate to. Now, what was interesting was the season before we'd done a show called Becky's New Car, which
Yes.
was a similar situation. It was a show that was playing regional theaters, and it wasn't necessarily out of New York City.
But not same author.
And not same author. Stephen Dietz wrote,
Okay.
and Sean
Right.
Grennan wrote Making God Laugh. But this season, coming up, I decided to select all 3 of my plays from successful runs at regional theaters because I found my audience was enjoying these shows that they found where they saw themselves, or they saw their neighbors, or they saw their kids, or they saw.
But the interesting thing is that they didn't. But the interesting thing is that they don't know those titles.
They don't.
I mean, you're going to have, or you're at some time, you're planning. You have big musicals like In the Heights that has a name recognition, or you do Spam-A-Lot that has a name recognition. These 3 shows that you've got planned for this season, most people have never heard of.
Right, and so of course there's the danger in that is something that people. I always try to tell my audience, I guarantee you, come to see everything that we're doing, because I guarantee you at the end of the year, the show that you will have loved the most will not be the one you thought you were going to love the most.
Well, Dave, how do you do this? You've got a really good eye, and you know your audience base, and you've got good taste in choosing the plays that you do. How do you balance the difference between what you want to do artistically for your own satisfaction and thinking with the businessman commercial side and knowing that you have tickets to sell and seats to fill? How do you balance that?
Well, that's probably one of the more difficult things, because I think that in years past that was a little easier to take the risk, so to speak, than it has been recently with the downturn in the economy. As far as people are picking and choosing what to do. Maybe people used to go to dinner and the theater. Now they're going to the restaurant one night and hopefully the theater on another night. But I always try every season to get a couple of things in there that jazz me, that get me excited, and whether it be a murder ballad, or whether it be from the past, a Floyd Collins, or a Violet, or Songs for a New World, or and even a classic musical like Ragtime, which is coming up, is huge. I've always wanted to do it. That's kind of our one show, one known name for this season, but it's not as commercially a well-known name as some of the other ones we've done in the past.
Sound of
Let's
Music.
talk about Murder Ballad.
Well, Murder
because
Ballad.
that was unique.
Yeah.
That was unique, and
Absolutely.
if anybody missed it, they missed it. But let's talk about that.
Because what we did was we took a one-act musical, an 85-minute musical, sung through, rock opera, rock pop opera. I hate to put the word rock on it too much, but it has that flavor. And not only that, it's an immersive theater experience. So it's very much for the younger audience. And we very much saw that the younger audience was excited about seeing that show, that they were wanting to sit at the tables that were right in the middle of the action. And the action happens all around you. We actually refurbished the upstairs theater, the balcony theater, in order to turn it into a nightclub, in order to turn it into a Lower East Side Greenwich Village bar. And so that was very exciting, because that also brought in a new, younger audience.
It did. There you go. That's what I was going to talk about. The young audience. The young audience. Are you getting them?
And we offer student rush tickets, which is very important. We also are venturing into the lottery aspect of a show, where people can come before the show and get a less expensive seat and get lucky. Sure. And at a lottery. So we're doing what we can. We're trying to reach out to the universities right now, between the University of Miami, FIU, Miami-Dade, and as much as we possibly can, because a lot of those folks have come to see our theater when they were in the middle schools or the elementary schools. So they've come to theater. Now they just have to realize that they have to pay a little more than they did when they went on a school field trip.
Do you still do morning shows for students?
We do, yeah.
I remember those.
And I still get the same reaction from the actors, because it's like you're doing a West Side Story, or you're doing a very difficult, challenging vocal show, and all of a sudden you're being asked to do it twice a week at 10 in the morning, and then do it again at 8 at night.
Jeez.
But we feel very strongly that that's part of the growth of the theater.
Sure.
And what's been fun is the actors, when that show is over, are like, that was one of the most fun performances we've had. The reaction from these young people is honest, It's right there. It's in the moment, and they're seeing. Some of them are seeing something they've never seen before.
Oh, and they have
An experience
fun.
they've never had.
How does that work? The morning shows. Do you invite schools, local high schools? How does that work?
It happens two ways. In that, yes, we invite local high schools. We let them know the shows. We mostly target their theater departments and/or their music departments. However, if we're doing a historical show, we will, or a show that might be a literature-based show, we might go after those departments. And then there's also grants in the county of Miami-Dade, which has a great cultural affairs department, and which really helps to allow us to reach out to underserved communities and bring these kids in on buses. And so the county is paying for, somebody's picking up the bus and somebody else is picking up the ticket for these kids to be able to come and see theater, and once again have an incredibly exciting moment for them seeing live professional theater, something they've never been to.
I'm always interested in the generations of audiences. 20 years ago, a large portion of the audience was between the ages of 55 and 65 and 75, many of whom were snowbirds. But those people are now in their 70s and their 80s. A lot of them aren't driving at night. There's a different group of older people coming in who were not raised on Oklahoma, who were not raised on some of these war horses. You've got a whole new, older, more dependable generation coming to see you. How do you reach those people?
Well, I think a lot of that has been that we've been fortunate enough to have one of the younger audience bases for South Florida theater. We were never dependent on just the retired snowbirds, and we were very fortunate that because of the types of shows we did even early on, that we were able to get these people to start coming to the theater and then get their friends to start coming to the theater. But it has changed. It definitely has changed. And yet the audience is still, I always say thank God for the older audience that was brought up on theater, and thank God for the Jewish audience for the fact that they've always been buying tickets and supporting theater for years and years and years. But we have to look very carefully at the new community that we're in Miami, and the types of shows that we select, and what can speak to the people that are living there, or the people. And then we also have to realize that new people have moved to Miami who might not have a clue who Actors Playhouse is. We sometimes think, oh, we've been around for 27 years. Everybody knows who we are. And then you have to start all over again. Sure. Because there's new people that have relocated.
27 years ago when you started, mission...
I was young.
We all. And going back there, the mission changed from then to now. You started in the small theater. What was it called? I was there.
Well, it was Actors Playhouse even back then, but we were in Kendall. We were in a strip mall in Kendall.
That's right, I was there.
We were in a strip mall in Kendall, and we were a 300-seat space. And we actually then renovated the side movie theater in Kendall, and it was two 300-seat spaces. We used to do the children's theater in one and the main stage series in the other. And then in Coral Gables at the Miracle Theater, beautiful facility owned by the city of Coral Gables, and we are the managing theater company. And we have a 600-seat space and a 300-seat space. Now, one of the things that has changed a little bit is that we do our main stage shows upstairs as well as downstairs, because now we can do venue appropriate for the type of piece that we've selected.
Sure.
If it's a more intimate piece, we can do it upstairs. If it's something that you want to see, the expansive set and a large cast, we can do it downstairs.
With the renovation of the theater for Murder Ballad, was that a permanent?
It was a crazy move.
Will you still be able to sit 300 people?
What we did was we lost a few seats in the process, and we built it just for that one show, and then restored for the rest of the season. However, every stud wall and every piece of plywood was marked and is going into storage because I want to do it again. I want to do something. I want to find shows like this again that work in that setting, or in the round, or in immersive theater, or whatever, because there will be more of them.
Well, what you're doing is you're creating a whole new space. You suddenly now you have a cabaret space as well as that intimate 300-seat house. That's wonderful.
So that's the exciting part. The putting it in and taking it out. I should have probably picked two shows that it worked for instead of
The last
one.
show of the season. That's the way
Yeah, well, a lot of, believe it or not, a crazy thing happened was that we were going to replace the carpet in the upstairs theater, so we had to remove the seats anyway to put the carpet in.
Oh,
So
there you
that
go.
seemed like the right time to do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea.
One of the things, have you learned any, do you do anything differently now with those shows like Floyd Collins, Songs for a New World, Violet, and Murder Ballad? One of the transcendental moments in my career was watching Floyd Collins, which I still think is one of the best things I've seen in theater.
Thanks, Bill.
And also watching on opening night half the audience stand up and walk out even before the intermission because they didn't know what they were coming to see.
Yeah,
they
that's-
thought they were coming to see one thing, and I've always felt as a critic that if I ever to let people know, if I can, what they're going to come see, so they have expectations. Do you guys do anything differently now about telling your audience what it is they're going to come see?
Yeah, we do. We try to target some of the material that we send out and the letters that go out to the subscribers and the single ticket buyers that we keep track of, and that we also let them know what type of show they're going to see, which shows might be pushing the envelope a little bit. Floyd was one of those rarities in that it was not only a dark subject matter, but it was the music was very atonal, and so there were people that were like, "What is this? What is this?" Now
Yes.
I grew up not only in theater but in music and was a musician, and so for me it was just like this incredible score, this soaring music, and this great storytelling. But we do need to let the audience know so that they're not surprised or shocked, and that's sometimes the danger of the eclectic season. But at the same time, if they walk out and then they hear from somebody else how incredible it was,
Yeah.
and then they hear
What you
that it was an award-winning theater, the award-winning show, the next season they say, maybe I should have stayed. Maybe I should have stayed and watched that second act. And I say that to all theater goers everywhere. Stay and watch the second act.
Well, along the same lines of that, do you do anything? How do you, for lack of a better word, how do you train your audience to open their eyes and broaden their expectations and likes to new work and to different types of work than they're used to?
You know, I've even suggested just recently to Barbara Stein, our executive director, who you all know, who does amazing work at running the business side of the theater, and also a lot of that outreach and a lot of those grants and a lot of that stuff. But I have said recently, I am willing to go to any place, to any home, to any group to explain a little bit about the way I like to go to theater, which is totally open. I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you to show me what you got, what you worked on. Okay, bring it to me. You know, and if audiences would just realize when they go to the theater to come with an open mind, because even a show that you think that you know, that director and that group might have decided to change that show up a little bit to give you a different perspective or a new version in a revival, and you're going to see something a little bit different than you expected. Keep your mind open and take in the whole work. And then you can pass judgment.
Give us a
on it.
chance, you're saying. You do very well with group sales, too. I'm always there with a bus pulling up.
Yeah,
now, that's your older crowd.
Thank God we've got that bus lane on Salcedo.
Well, I will say parking, of course, is a pleasure. You have a garage right behind the theater. That's very important.
Yeah, it is. Parking in Coral Gables is affordable and available. Okay, we don't have a free parking lot, but it's right there behind the theater and all around, and the buses can come right up alongside, and we still have great group sales coming from all parts of Miami-Dade County, as well as groups that come as far away as Boca, to come and see what we do.
I'm glad to hear that. That's what I want to hear. I want the audience to enlarge the audience that way too. There's a way to get there. You're not that difficult to get to.
Yeah,
Once
that's
they get there, it's easy.
and
And the wonderful restaurants, really up and down the whole mile.
Exactly, make it an experience.
That's it, experience. I like that word. Every
and
time we go
expect
to
to
the
be
theater, it
surprised.
is.
Well, that's the big thing, that's why I joked before about the show that you're going to like is not the show that you think you're going to like. You're going to end up seeing, you're going to end up coming and saying, I'm afraid of this show. This is a dark show. What's this title mean? And then they see like a performance like you gave in Fear Up Harsh.
Oh,
You know, no, but seriously. And all of a sudden, it turns the audience on its ear. And
The
they're seeing
acting pool.
something completely different. Well, the acting pool down here is
Looked at Karen and I said it right away. Michael, the acting pool here.
But there is an audience, and again, we mentioned northern Palm Beach County. There is an audience where they are coming for comfort, and they're coming to see something that they haven't seen. One of the things that the Maltz has made great inroads in is putting on familiar titles, but throwing out all previous conceptions and going, let's find something
What did that
new.
have to do with the acting pool? I asked him a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
And I think, as I say,
Ask him
I
about
I'll
the
answer
acting.
both.
Yes, go ahead, go for it.
So first of all, the acting pool. What's exciting about the acting pool in South Florida is, number one, it has grown. Okay.
It has.
Because more and more of the younger people that are graduating from the universities down here are sticking around for a little while to see if they maybe can get a few credits before they run off to the city. Many of them are running off to the city and turning around and running back. And the people that are working here are working at multiple theaters. And so all of a sudden now you've got a group of actors who they're getting more experience, they're getting different directors, they're being able to use the sponge of the different producing companies to learn different things about what they can bring to a performance. And the community itself has become a little tighter because they work at these different theaters now, and it's not just the Actors Playhouse actors and the Palm Beach Drama Works actors, and we share the talent pool. And so that's very exciting. And then at the same time, to get back to your question, you have to realize that you've got to give your audience from time to time what they want and what they want to see. And I have been saying with a production like Ragtime, you may not know Ragtime, but what you're going to see with Ragtime is the most lavish produced show we have produced since Les Miserables.
When you say it.
One more thing, real quickly.
Sure.
Where do you think your audience is going to be? What is your audience going to look like? What is it you think they're going to be in 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now?
Well,
Where do you see things going?
we've talked about the 5-year plan for the theater. One of the interesting things about our space is that we are a mini performing arts center in Coral Gables. We may not be the big arts center, but we're Actors Playhouse at the Miracle Theater. We have multiple theater spaces. And I think that we need to begin to be doing multiple events. We do Spanish language theater rentals. We do concerts. We do movies now that are connected to the shows that we're doing. Make people come into the building to see art.
There you go.
Period.
And with that, we want to thank Dave Arisco for a wonderful afternoon and evening here. We want to thank our panelists, Iris and Michael and Karen, and we want to thank you for coming by and watching us. If you have any other questions about what's playing on theater, we want you to go and see everything. So please look at FloridaTheaterOnStage.com, and thank you for tuning in to Spotlight on the Arts.